Now, as some of you may or may not know, Phase 2 is now on the PTR. Only some of it. The reason I say only some of it is because Ulduar is not currently live, but they are testing the Heroic Plus dungeons, or what they refer to as Defense Protocol Alpha. Now, I was actually quite surprised by how good they are. Normally, when I put one of these videos out, I've got negative things to say about Blizzard's decisions, but in this circumstance, they're actually really good. I couldn't actually believe how far they've gone, even though they're very closely associated with Mythic affixes, and if you don't understand what those are, but basically Mythic has different types of buffs or debuffs, and then the higher you go in the Mythic system, or, you know, Mythic +5, Mythic +10, the more of these affixes that you actually get attached to that dungeon that you're doing. And our Defense Protocol Alpha is very similar, except for the fact we only get one, and we only get one per dungeon type. And by dungeon type, I mean the location of the dungeon. So if you was doing Ute Guard Pinnacle, you're going to get the same debuff as if you was doing Ute Guard Keep. If you was doing Azjol Nerub, you're going to get the same debuff as if you was doing Old Kingdom. But one of them in particular is actually a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to telling you what it is. But before I tell you what it is, be sure to like and subscribe, because I guarantee the information I'm about to tell you, if you don't know it already, you're probably going to like, so you might as well like, and you might want more, so maybe subscribe. And England won today, so, yeah. Now, not much has changed when it comes to the PTR. There is one thing that's quite interesting, and it comes to the emblem system. Now, I've been saying for the longest time that I expected it to be Emblem of Heroism and Emblem of Valor, and we basically just stay with that throughout the whole expansion. This still could be the case, but at the moment in the PTR, we've got Emblem of Conquest coming as well. And the Emblem of Conquest vendor has actually been added. I find this a little bit strange because I don't really see the need to progress on to future emblems when they could literally just turn all of the Emblems of Valor into Heroism and then progress on and only ever have two. Throughout the entire expansion, only ever have two, instead of only having two active at any given time. Because the way it's looking at the moment is we're getting Valor in the Heroic Plus mode, or Defense Protocol Alpha, which is Valor, which is going to be the lower tier, and then we're going to get Conquest in the later tier. But all of the Heroics, when you go in them, have got a little disc that's floating there that you can talk to, and you don't need a full group to be able to do this. You can do this solo. And when you talk to the disc and then you channel on a small orb that comes out of it, it will activate the Heroic Plus mode. Heroic Plus mode for all of the dungeons will give the mobs 100% more health and 30% more damage, except for Halls of Stone and Halls of Lightning. So that one's excluded, and we'll come on to that shortly, why that is. So if you was to go into Azjol Nerub or Old Kingdom, you've got a chance of being webbed by the mobs, and it increases their health by 100% and 30% damage. I'm not going to keep repeating myself on the first part because that's just what all of them do. If you was to go in Ute Guard Keep or Ute Guard Pinnacle, you get a debuff, or you get a chance of getting a debuff, and you'll drop some ice on the floor that if people stand in it or you stand in it, you'll take some damage, and it's normally 3% of your total health. This does stack, so if you're stood in someone else's, you'll take 3% from yours and 3% from theirs. So you want to kite it away from the group. If you go in Gundrak or Drakfaran Keep, the mobs have got a chance of dropping some blood on the floor, and they will heal or leech health for 100% of the damage they deal. You unfortunately can't benefit from this, so you can't stand in it and heal for unlimited amounts based on your DPS. It's only the mobs at the moment. Culling of Stratholme's a really interesting one and quite fun. So if you watched my video the other day where I was talking about Stratholme Holy Water, where it's been changed to only be 1 calorie and it removes diseases, the reason for this is because in Culling of Stratholme, it acts very much like the pre-patch event during Wrath of the Lich King, where you could turn into a zombie, you could turn other people into zombies, you could bite, you could do all of these zombie-like abilities. This is a disease, so it can be dispelled by priests or paladins, anyone who can dispel diseases. But if you haven't got anyone in your group that can dispel diseases, you can loot Stratholme Holy Water from the mobs, and you can also get a big starter pack of Stratholme Holy Water from the start in some crates. But you need to be in charge of keeping yourself dispelled, getting rid of that disease, or you'll turn into a zombie. We couldn't see any way to get rid of it once it's actually activated, and if you half stone out of the dungeon, for example, it does actually go automatically. So you can't go out into the open world and start spreading this, although I do expect us to find a way to do that at some point. We'll find some cheesy way where we can go and start spreading diseases, and then it'll get hotfixed, but, you know, still pretty cool anyway. The Nexus, Oculus, and Violet Hold all seem to have the same arcane rune buff, which you get the standard things with the health and damage that you expect, and then a chance to get mirror images. Now, they are worded slightly different, with Nexus and Oculus saying mirror images of attackers, and Violet Hold saying of casters, but they're going to do basically the same thing. There was people on the stream earlier doing Violet Hold, and they said they've all got 1 health. When they spawn the mirror images of their self, you just hit them all once, and then they disappear. But nice bit of flair to the dungeon. And now I gotta say, possibly my favourite one, with Halls of Stone and Halls of Lightning, the actual buff they get statically changes a little bit, where their damage increase is only up by 5%, but the amount of health that they get is increased by nearly 200%. And the reason for this is actually because the mobs do a pulse, which will increase everybody's damage by 1% per stack, but also damage taken by 2% per stack. So you can ramp this buff up massively and do ridiculous amounts of damage, but you're also going to be taking ridiculous amounts of damage. But that's a really fun debuff, you know, just to see the massive amounts of damage that your whole group's going to be doing. I think it's really cool. Probably the best out of all of them, in my opinion, at least. Now, the achievement has been added, so you've got a new meta achievement to complete all of these dungeons on their Heroic Plus difficulty. But actually, they are quite challenging. We was doing them in full dungeon gear, or basically the gear that we start with, which was like full blues, couple of epics, but mainly pre-raid bis. And all of the dungeons were fairly challenging. I wouldn't say they was easy whatsoever. We wiped several times, in fact. We cleared Ute Guard Keep fairly easily once we realised that we couldn't treat it as a joke. And overall, a really good experience. I can't knock it at all. And now, if you're wondering about the loot, each boss looks like it drops from a small pool of data we've got, obviously, because we've only really cleared a dungeon or two, and just looking based on that what you're actually getting. From each boss, you're getting the ordinary heroic loot that you would expect, so either the blue from the non-last bosses, last boss, you know what I mean. Any of the bosses that is not the last one, you'll get the blue that you would ordinarily get from them, and from the last boss, you'll get the blue that you would get from them, plus the epic, plus the frozen orb, plus a piece of KT loot is what it seems like. So a weapon or any item that can drop from KT. And the rest of the bosses will drop an epic that can drop from anywhere in Nax. Now, people have also told me about getting the bag, so the Bounty Defense Protocol Alpha bag or whatever, where they actually got Emblems of Conquest and Gold. I haven't actually seen any of those myself, but apparently they do exist and people are getting them. But I just haven't seen one. But in those bounty bags, you're getting the highest tier, like the highest tier emblem plus some gold. So don't quote me on that because I haven't seen it, but apparently that's what you can get. Whilst Alduar's not on there yet, this is a really good looking heroic plus system for me personally, because I like the fact that each dungeon has got something else that you need to watch out for and not just a flat 100% damage or 100% health or 100% whatever. It's nice that they've gone a little bit further than that and just made it a little bit more entertaining. So if you like the video, like, subscribe. I'm done. Roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes. Everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name. And you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.